Welcome to a journey beneath the waves, where the unexpected defies imagination. Picture this: a seasoned marine biologist, Ethan Harper, sets out on a routine dive near the barrier reef, only to come face to face with an encounter so extraordinary it could change everything we know about the ocean. What happened to Ethan beneath the surface is not just a tale of survival, it's a glimpse into the hidden wonders of the deep. Stay with us as we unravel a story that will leave you awestruck. Ethan Harper, a seasoned marine biologist, was documenting underwater life near the barrier reef when a colossal whale abruptly swallowed him whole. His team watched in horror, unable to react as the gentle giant closed its mouth. Ethan emerged minutes later, gasping for air, revealing a shocking discovery that turned everyone pale. "You won't believe what I saw down there," Ethan said as soon as the air returned to his lungs. He looked excited rather than terrified, even though he had just been inside a whale's mouth. "Dude, are you okay?" his teammate worriedly asked. Everyone was more concerned about Ethan's well-being. "We thought you were whale food, man," Claire, one of Ethan's teammates, said as she pulled him out of the water and onto the boat. Ethan was still breathing heavily, but his eyes showed a strange twinkle. "Guys, listen," Ethan tried again. "I just made the discovery of a lifetime." Now everyone quieted down, eager to hear what Ethan had seen. He took a deep breath and began to recount what had happened in grave detail. Ethan had been documenting the different ecosystems around the barrier reef. He had been tasked with capturing footage of rare marine behaviors, and boy did he find what he was looking for. As he swam around, he suddenly heard his team going haywire in his earpiece, telling him to swim to the surface ASAP. But Ethan was in the middle of capturing what he thought to be the money shot, so he wasn't going anywhere. Suddenly he began to feel some kind of pull from behind, and a big shadow fell over him. When he turned on the flashlight on his camera, his stomach dropped. When he shone his flashlight down, he saw a giant pink tongue. Ethan immediately knew where he was, but was stunned by the idea alone. Ethan's teammates, who had been in the water with him, were in a state of panic. They had watched their friend get sucked into the mouth of a whale, and there was no way for him to come out on his own. They immediately swam to the surface to communicate with the crew. Claire had her eyes on the whale who had eaten Ethan and wasn't planning on leaving it out of her sight. Suddenly, the whale began to swim away, and Claire quickly rose to the surface to tell her team on the boat. Inside the whale's mouth, Ethan was debating his next steps when he suddenly felt the whale moving. He had to find a way to make the whale release him. Ethan reached forward and tapped the whale's massive tongue, hoping it would retreat and give him some room to escape. Instead, the tongue shifted upward, pressing against the roof of the whale's mouth, trapping him further. Fumbling in the dark, he yanked his gauge closer, heart pounding as he saw how little oxygen he had left. "Got to think," Ethan told himself. The pressure in his tank had dropped even further, and his lungs were starting to burn. "I have to make it out," he whispered. Meanwhile, the team's boat surged through the water, following the whale with Ethan trapped inside. "Coast Guard, do you copy?" Claire shouted into the radio, her voice laced with urgency. "We need assistance with a man swallowed by a whale. We are in pursuit." "Coast Guard, has anything like this ever happened before? Any advice?" Claire asked, her voice desperate for any piece of useful information. Finally, a voice came through. "Negative. We've never dealt with a situation quite like this. Keep a safe distance and monitor his condition best you can." The Coast Guard's confirmation that they had no experience with such incidents hit hard. "There's nothing more you can do," they said. The team exchanged worried glances, feeling more alone than ever. "We can't communicate with the whale directly, but we can try to manipulate its movements. What if we throw a bunch of fish into the ocean to get the whale to open up again?" Claire suggested, her voice mixed with hope and urgency. The idea of using fish to lure the whale to release Ethan was a gamble, but it sparked a new energy among the crew. After a few tense moments, the water around Ethan shifted, pulling him towards the baleen plates. Feeling a swell of movement that gave him hope, the whale's massive body stirred, responding to Ethan's relentless tapping and the tantalizing scent of fish wafting through the water outside. The whale's mouth cracked open just enough for Ethan to sense the light creeping in. The whale's massive tongue moved beneath him, and he held his breath as the giant creature opened up slowly. As Ethan was being pulled out, he spotted something remarkable along the whale's walls. Even in the dim light, he could see a collection of unusual barnacles and strange growths attached to the slick surface. It was an extraordinary sight, like an entire miniature ecosystem thriving within the mouth of a giant. He marveled for a moment, then quickly snapped his camera to capture the bizarre scene before he would be carried out by the rushing water. He felt his air supply running low, but he knew he'd have to surface fast once he was free. With his air nearly depleted, Ethan fought against the currents and kicked toward the surface as fast as he could. Ethan broke through the surface, gasping for air. He tore off his mouthpiece and swam aimlessly, rejoicing in his freedom. The taste of fresh air filled his lungs as he savored the warm sunlight on his face. After regaining his composure, Ethan turned to find the team's boat. "Where are you guys?" he shouted, spinning around in the water. Realizing he was far from the barrier reef, Ethan faced the harsh truth that he was in the middle of the open ocean. The familiar coral structures and marine life that had been his guideposts were nowhere to be seen. How did I drift so far, he wondered aloud. With no land in sight, Ethan knew he couldn't waste his dwindling energy. He lay back in the water, trying to float and remain hopeful. He would have to trust that his team was out there somewhere and would find him before it was too late. On the boat, Claire scanned the horizon desperately, searching for any sign of Ethan. They strained their eyes as the shape drifted in the waves, barely visible through the glare of the sun. Despite being close to the whale, Claire grew increasingly concerned that they might have followed the wrong one. "I can't believe it," she muttered, feeling frustration gnaw at her resolve. She looked back at the crew, their faces pale and exhausted. They had to keep searching and make sure they didn't miss any signs. Claire pointed out a small dot on the horizon, convinced it was Ethan. "Look over there," she urged, her arms stretched out toward the distant shape. "That has to be him. I'm sure of it," she insisted, her voice firm. "We can't just sit here while he's out there." The team hesitated, reminding Claire they had to wait for the Coast Guard's plan. When the captain refused to move, Claire pushed him aside and set the boat at full speed toward the dot. The boat surged forward, engine roaring as it cut through the waves. The rest of the team held on tight, bracing against the sudden acceleration. As they neared the dot on the horizon, the team fell silent, realizing it might indeed be Ethan. "I think it's really him," one crewmate whispered, straining to see through the spray. "Get the life preserver ready," the captain ordered. The boat approached the struggling figure, confirming it was their missing teammate. "It's him! It's really him!" Claire shouted, adrenaline surging through her veins. The team gathered at the edge of the boat, their eyes locked on Ethan as he bobbed in the waves. He was barely staying afloat, his movements sluggish. "Get that life preserver over here," the captain barked, and within seconds the orange ring was tossed into the water, inches from Ethan's grasp. Just as Ethan began to lose consciousness, the boat reached his side. "He's fading! We've got to hurry!" a crewmate shouted. The waves threatened to push Ethan under as his fingers slipped off the life preserver. Without hesitation, Claire jumped into the water, grabbing Ethan and pulling him to safety. She hooked her arm around his shoulder and signaled for the team to pull them both in. "I've got him! I've got him!" she called out. The life preserver slipped around him, and the crew heaved them both back onto the boat. "Ethan, buddy, can you hear us?" a crewmate asked as they laid him gently on the deck. Ethan coughed softly and nodded weakly, his chest heaving as he sucked in the salty air. "Yeah, I'm okay," he rasped, voice hoarse from the struggle. They wrapped him in a blanket, and he finally began to regain some color. Looking up at his rescuers, he said breathlessly, "Inside that whale, I saw something that shouldn't exist. I got photos too." The team listened eagerly, leaning in closer as he explained what he found. "I'm telling you, it's a game changer." His eyes lit up with excitement as he fumbled through his gear, preparing to show them the photos he had captured. Eagerly, Ethan told them about the thought-to-be extinct fish. "It was incredible," he said, voice trembling with excitement. "I saw a whole school of them inside the whale's mouth." He flipped through his camera, showing the team photo after photo of the elusive fish, their bright scales glimmering in the dim light of the whale's massive mouth. "This will change everything," Claire murmured. "We've got to get these back to the lab." Back on dry land, Ethan reviewed his footage, documenting every detail of his experience inside the whale. He played back the video, recounting the remarkable journey to an eager audience of marine biologists and researchers. The room buzzed with excitement as each new frame revealed the rare fish in all their glory. "We want to partner with you to study this species," the director told Ethan, shaking his hand firmly. "I'm just glad we've got this chance to learn more," Ethan replied, humbled by their admiration. Ethan was recognized and awarded a medal for his remarkable contribution to marine biology. Beaming at the applause, he looked out into the crowd and caught sight of Claire and the crew, all cheering him on. He couldn't have done it without them. He raised the medal high, sharing the moment with his entire team.